Hey guys, I want to talk to you today about what's called seller's concessions, or as they are commonly referred to as closing costs. Now, they're usually, let's say for a VA loan, say $5,000, and they can be taken care of any number of ways. Either the buyer will take care of them, the seller will take care of them, or some combination of the two. And by take care of, I mean pay with money. Now, if the seller is going to pay for them, who cares how they pay for them? Am I right? But if the buyer pays for them, there are a few ways that can happen. Either you bring cash to the closing table, or the lender will help you out with, say, putting it in the loan itself, or with putting it into the interest rate. Now, I'm not so concerned about if it's put into the loan itself. Like, let's say you have a $200,000 house, and it's the seller's concessions are put into the loan itself. Then you are paying for $205,000, and that's your loan. But what is my concern is if you can only get it rolled into your interest rate. Then my concern is then that the interest rate is going to affect your monthly bottom line. Now, this is why I personally prefer to try to get the seller to pay for the closing costs, if at all possible. If you're in a very strong seller's market, like we were back in, say, June, July this year, 2017, then it's be really hard to get into a house with the seller paying the closing costs rather than the buyer. If the buyer must pay, then try to either bring cash to the table or get it put into the loan itself. If you get it put into the interest rate, then my concern is, again, your monthly bottom line. Is because your monthly payment may be higher because the interest rate itself will raise your monthly payment, because your monthly payment is the primary, that's what's called the primary amount of the loan that's left, the interest, tax, and insurance. You know, if any of those are higher, then your monthly payment will be higher. Interest rate, it seems like such a small number, 3.9, 3.2, whatever, compared to the overall loan. But a little bit goes a long way. So relative to the entire loan, if you can only get it taken care of, it being the seller's concessions, through raising your interest rate, let's go ahead and try to negotiate with the sellers to try to get the sellers to pay the closing costs. It may be, and you'll have to talk to a lender about this, but it may be that it might be better off for your monthly bottom line if you pay $5,000 more on the offer rather than paying for the closing costs via raised interest rates. So if you have to raise the purchase price by $5,000, for example, again, to get the seller to pay for them, I say do it. You'll have to talk to your lender to make sure that that truly is the best route to take, but it's all relative to how much your interest rate is being raised again. So just a little recap. When you hear a realtor such as myself saying seller's concessions is our secret code word for closing costs, pretty much, and try to get the seller to pay for them. Right now, it is October of 2017. It's very possible to get the seller to pay the closing costs. You just have to, write a good offer, pretty much. You might be able to get under asking price and get the closing costs. You may not, but again, I would prioritize having the seller pay for the closing costs.